Greetings everyone to my fellow front-end developers out there, because I am doing front-end right now. Anyway, I did say that I was going to make more animations, but for now let's go with Astro. I will walk you through Astro. Have you ever had a time when you had to, let's say, copy paste a specific line of code, let's say in an ordered list, or in a list? You had to copy paste the li tag every single time just to change or show more content rather. But with Astro, you can make your you can lessen your let's say work time to do something repetitive. And to do that, you can just say npm create astro at latest, and it will prompt you with the directory of where you want to put the files. Either you want a template or not, and in my case I chose an empty template or empty structure, because there are like blog template and sample files, and if you want to use TypeScript or not, and in my case I want to use it. Anyway, to start this, you can just say npm run dev, and I've only got a simple starter file here, so I can walk you through this step by step. Now let's go to localhost 3000. There we go, beautiful. And what I mentioned earlier is like copy pasting. Let's say I want to have multiple h1s of Astro and just do this repetitively, and that works fine. But with Astro, you can actually make use of something called mapping through a list, or an array rather. And then with that, you can return something. Now, to show it to you, let's make the array. For example, I want an array of links. Then first we can make a constants file, or you can make a constant folder, and let's say you will place all the constants that you have there for a specific, let's say, page. So you can have constants here, and then in here you will have an index which will pretty much export everything that we will be needing as a constant. And the first one would be, let's say, the root dir, let's say .ts, or root, yeah, root.ts. I don't know if that will be okay. It's an allowed file name. Okay, so in here, in the root directory of the page, I want to show a list of links. Well, to do that, we can just say and any kind of variable name you want. Nav links, let's say nav links, and so be an array of objects, because you also want to specify its href, its title, its type, or whatnot, whatever properties you want inside of the a tag. And in my case, I want to have an href of, let's say, youtube.com, and name of YouTube. Now let's say an ID, I guess, YouTube link, and then a prefetch of false. So if you don't know what prefetch is, it pretty much says that you want the user to fetch this the contents of this link beforehand. So it's useful for stuff like when you're using hashtags as a link, like to scroll down or navigate through sections of a page. As you can see, I'm just going to make 3 of them. So enough prefetch exists in Astro. Actually, I've been using Next.js. Oh well, we'll see. What else? Twitter, I guess. No, Instagram. Let's go to Instagram. And while we're here, I guess I can show you some animations as well, like loading animation. Okay, now we will export this. And to do that, we can say export brackets and nav links. There we go. Then in the index file, just import that, and you're importing non-default files or variables rather, not files, then just say you just include that inside the bracket, and then there we go, nav links, and export that, nav links. Now we have an error here. Why is that? Because we forgot the from keyword. There we go. Okay, wait, I lost Wi-Fi. Let me just pause. Okay, and there we go. Export that. And now, if you aren't sure what this does, and if like new to this, what this does is that the index file is pretty much considered as this folder itself. So what I mean by that is, for example, I want to import the nav links, right? So if I want to import the nav links, there we go. As you can see, it just specifies the constant's name instead of the index. So if I remove this here, let's say, from this here, wait. So let's say the index file is not exporting anything, we will get an error if we try to actually load this. Okay, pardon me, let me pause. Okay, the motor is gone. Let's see if I have an, can we actually render this? I'm not too sure. Oops. Okay, there we go. There's an error right here, and it says it's not a module because it's not exporting anything, which is what a module does generally. And if we say that we want to get the root here, then it will not show the error anymore. And as you can see, it's actually showing on. But if you bring that back and just put that, just save it, as you can see, there should be no error. Let me check that real quick. There we go, there's no error inside, and there's no error here, but let's try to, there we go, to edit this file. Okay, now let me show you the mapping, and it's pretty simple really. And this is what we generally do in frameworks. I think it's called framework, I don't know, but Astro is a framework, I'm sure of that. But like React, React is a library, I think. Next.js, which is pretty much just React again, as well, which I haven't used, so I'm not pretty sure, but you get what I mean. Maybe you will. And now to look through this, so with JSX, so this is called JSX right here, although I'm not sure what it's called in Astro. Although when an HTML has superpowers like including a JavaScript inside of it, like this, because whatever is inside here will be a JavaScript, is considered as JSX. But I think Astro is not really JSX. I'm not too sure about that, but you can visit the Astro docs. As you can see, I've been visiting it for my projects, and I have no internet. Great. Anyway, they've got great documentation. It's very simple. You can start off very easily. Okay, I've been off track now. And if you're familiar with JavaScript, then you might know where this is going. So for each nav link inside of nav links, we will map through them, and for each of them, we want to return something. And now a shorthand for return is pretty much just brackets. So this is specifying that it is again a JSX element. But if you want to, let's say, include an if statement, for example, here. Okay, wait, let me show you first the shorthand. So li, and then as simple as navlink dot. As you can see, this is an object, right? An array of objects, and now we have access to the properties of each link. And now we want to get its, let's say, name. And there we go, marvelous. We have the link, the list of nav links, which is pretty much just a link right now. Okay, now let me show you the one that I mentioned earlier. Let's say you want to specify a condition, like you don't want to render something when it has this index and ID and name or whatnot, or if you want to set up an infinite scrolling based on the last item on the list, or on the array or data rather, which I can discuss on another video, but yeah. Anyway, in here, brackets, and if navlink, let's say .id is not equal to YouTube link, let's say we don't want to include YouTube inside the list of links, then we can just return an li of navlink.name. You can see that will not render the YouTube. And let's say I want to render the YouTube link with a different let's say different text. Say I want to register the ID or something, I don't know. Okay, you can do it like that. There we go. So this is pretty much just JavaScript inside of HTML, which you can use to render HTML. Unlike in like vanilla, where you have to create the element like li, the div, and then append them, which gets pretty much confusing in the long run. Anyway, there's that, and now it's time to discuss about the styles. Alright, let me pause the video for a bit. Okay, with the styles, it gets pretty difficult to navigate. Let's say you have a single style, yes, a single style sheet. You have a single style sheet, let's say. It gets frustrating and annoying to navigate through it, doesn't it? And you can use Control F to find the keyword, but really it's difficult. And sometimes we split up the files, which is a good practice, modularization for maintenance, but at the end it's still time consuming. And like you can have a styles folder here and etc. One thing to note is that everything that you want Astro to compile or bundle or like process, like everything that makes your website a website, like the functionalities and stuff, navigations, then you will include this inside of this. But for things that is like static, or like you just get it, you like fetch it rather, let's say an image, a text file, a PDF file, or any kind of files that doesn't really have a functionality, let's say it's just there for display, then you will include it in the public folder, which is outside of source. And in here you can also include code that you don't want Astro to process. Let's say you want to have a content management system, which is another topic. Alright, now let's head with styles. So for example, I want an index.css style here. Okay, well, I want to change the background color of the body. Then what we can do is body background color black. Oh, it doesn't work. Why is that? Well, we haven't really imported it here. And if you think that the way we can import this is using a link href to that, then you are wrong, sadly. And if you've noticed, we've actually imported the nav links on top and in between the three hyphens. Now what this is called, if you are not familiar, is it's called front matter, and it is used in markdown files and mdx files, which also I am not quite familiar with, but I've been using it for Astro because it's a static site generator that is great for blogs, which I made. Okay, anyway, and we can just import that. And since this is the index CSS, like the index style sheet, then take note that you need to import this on the very root of your, let's say, HTML, and I will show that to you after this. And as you can see, it worked. And let's say you have a P, let's say hello Astro, and let's change the color to P. Hello, oh oops, color to white, right? There we go. Hello Astro. But let's say we have another P. Okay, wait. Right. But let's say we have a different component that has another P. There we go. And that is another thing that I will talk to you guys with. Okay, now what are components? Well, they're just pretty much decoupled code, and inside of the component it returns a JSX, or pretty much just HTML markup. It's called markup, yeah. And in here we can make a components folder just to make things readable, let's say. Then again, if you want, you can have the index.ts, but generally in Astro I don't prefer it, but it did make my blog look kind of ugly, so we're going to do this. Okay, let's say we want a component of definitions, I guess, definitions that Astro. And in here we can just have a P of Astro is awesome. Go ahead and import that here. Export. There we go. There's some auto import here, which is very nice. Okay, JSX is not set. So one more thing, why? Oops. Alright, pardon for my dog. You know what? I think I will not use the index.ts here, because look, I think this was the reason I didn't use this kind of technique in using the Astro components. Okay, let's not do this. Anyway, generally what you put in the components are pretty much the various frameworks or libraries that you use, like React, Svelte, Git, P-React, what else? Vue and Angular, stuff like that. And that's actually the beauty of Astro, and that's about the, what you call this? It's called the islands architecture. And generally, if it's in the docs, but generally Astro ships 0 JavaScript by default. Like unlike in React, it's like if you look at the source folder, there's like a bunch of JavaScript files there, right? But in Astro, it boasts that it does not do that by default, and it's just pure HTML. That's why it's very quick, like ultra fast, if you don't specify, let's say, a framework of some sort, or a JavaScript in that regard. Anyway, if you can notice, we have now imported the definitions, and that the configuration updated because I updated it earlier, and I don't know why it's not restarting properly. Oh, there we go. Okay, definitions. Now if I do this, so it's pretty much the same as HTML if you're not familiar with the use of components. And inside of this you can have children, which I will talk about later, but after this. But for now, let's have this, a self-closing tag. It's what you call this, like in inputs and image tags in normal HTML. Anyway, if you paste that, there we go. And let's say I want to change the color to red, like the color of this to red. And as you can see, it's not really doing it. And yes, we can specify class names, which is pretty much the reason why people mostly use Tailwind now, because naming elements with classes gets pretty tedious, and Astro has a solution for that. So let's say all paragraphs will have a default color of white in the index CSS. However, in here I want this to have a color of red. Then we can just have an inline style, then just say P is, I want a P of this component, like all the paragraph that is only inside this component to have a color of red. And what just happened, I'm not too sure. Oh, okay, let me see what the problem was. Ah, of course. This was at the lower part, and this was at the upper part, and this is pretty much a general selector. Oh, it's because it's the in the upper part. Okay. If you look at the organization here of the styles, there you go. This one was the first one. Oh really? Okay, never mind then. But yeah, as you can see, this one was the first one and this one was the last one. That's why the declaration here was overridden by the declaration here for all paragraphs, that is for it to be color white. Anyway, so you can see there's like a class name here, and that's actually the beauty of Astro when you use inline styles right here. It gives a specific ID of a class name, and it will use that to actually style all the elements that you specify, and in this case paragraph, only in that component. So this is unique. This class name here is unique to only inside of this component right here. And I'm not sure if this will solve it, but let us make a layouts folder. Now the three horsemen of Astro is the pages folder, the layouts folder, and the components folder. So the layouts is pretty much self-explanatory, the main layout of whatever component or page you want. And in this case, let's say we want the main layout, or the one that is pretty much the container of everything, and it's this, the one that starts with HTML. So let me grab this real quick, remove this, and just make this empty for now. Okay, make that empty for now, and put everything in here. Now we want to import the index HCSS here, the main style sheet. So this is pretty much the global style sheet that you want to be accessed by all elements. Like for the style sheet to affect all elements, let's say you want to have the resets and the font family and stuff. Okay, there we go. And if I save this, nothing is happening, and that is because pages is where the routing happens, and this is what you call file-based routing, and it's like in Next.js, I think. Yeah, so anything that's in the very top part, like the very root part of this folder, and that's the first level, is where the index.astro is, will be considered as part of the root URL. Okay. And then index, the name index, as I mentioned before, in constants, right? It index is pretty much considered as the contents of the folder that is encapsulating it. So in this case, the pages, or the root URL, in that manner, the root URL represents index. Wait, I think that was the other way around. Okay, the index.astro file represents the root URL, and that's why it showed up earlier inside here, the content inside. Okay. I hope you understood that. I will talk about passing variables in components, or pretty much various files. So even if we specify this as a component, this is also a component right here. Like everything, every file here that, let's say, returns a JSX is considered a component. Okay. Now, one more thing actually before we use the variables is the slot tag, element tag that Astro uses. And this is pretty much the children props, if you know React, in React, which is passed on. And what this means is that this is wherever you put this element tag, that is where all the children that you pass in this layout. So let's say I have the slot here, and let's save that. Let's go back to index, and we want to render that main layout. There we go, in Stilo Sense rules. And as I've mentioned before, is that you can actually put anything in here, and that will be considered as children. So think of this as like an element tag, let's say, but in this case it's like a group of elements like this here, and inside this will pretty much just be the continuation of that. So say haha, random gibberish words, and it's not working, I think. That's it. Oh, there we go. I just need to refresh it, and if you check here, it should be right there. There we go. Just the color is not affected. So to change that, we can just say in the body to have everything the color of white, and just remove the paragraph one. There we go. Okay, so now what this means is that every child here will be taken right here where this is specified. So if I move this up here, like above the paragraph, it will move above the paragraph. And one important thing in this is that you can name slots, and there we go. And if I name this as a P slot, like paragraph slot, I don't know, it's gone. Where did it go? Well, we can have a tag here, and we can give attribute, rather. We can give an attribute to a text now, can we? So let's make a paragraph tag right here. Say I am a slot. That sounded wrong. Okay, that's not. Anyway, there's a special attribute again, which is called slot. And in here, you just need to specify the value of whatever name of the slot that you want this to be put in. Like here, say we want this to be put inside of the slot with a name of P underscore slot. Then we can just copy pretty much the name, which is P underscore slot, and now it's rendered inside. And now you can see the power of it, right? Compared to normal HTML, which is very difficult hole or rabbit hole to get in. Endless copy paste. Anyway, now let's get on to passing props. Now let's say I want to change the title as I please. So like this is a layout, right? Then that means I will be using this at various pages. Let's say I want to go to an about, say a blog page. Is that too generic? No, let's just go for blog. And inside of this blog, there's an index.astro, which pretty much signifies the root or the blog path. There we go. That's a better name for it. The blog path. So this index.astro signifies this blog path. So now if we go to localhost 3000/blog or /blog, you can see that there's nothing because we have not specified anything inside of this index.astro. But if I say that I want to render the main layout and I refresh, there we go. And this is what the main layout contains. However, as you can see up here and inside of the head, the title is still the same because it is statically typed here. And one thing to change that is to have the props or variables that you want. And to do that is to initiate either a const props equals astro.props, or you can use the destructuring method of objects, which if you don't know, I can discuss in another video. But pretty much what you do is that, as I named the variable props earlier, right, which is equal to astro.props, and astro.props returns whatever props you want. So yeah, whatever props you pass on onto this component or this, yeah, fragment like here. And I'll show you how to do that real quick. But as you can see here, it's an object, and let's say I just want to get the title and the description for SEO a bit. And now if you're not sure with TypeScript, but you are kind of curious, then for type safety, because if we do it like this right now, then that would be cool. Excuse me. So let's do it with the okay, let's do it with the blog. Why not? Let's save it. Okay, so as you can see, there's no error right here. Like everything is fine, good, you know, amazing. But if I start to, let's say, type props or interface props, pretty much whatever you want, just name it props, it equals title, a string, and a description of a string. You can see there's already an error here, and if you rate that, there we go. And you can see that this is much the children, as I mentioned earlier in React, but in Astro's case they're using a element of slot, which is very nice actually. You can like separate children. Anyway, now we have missing of title and description, unlike earlier where okay, excuse me, unlike earlier where we didn't really know what to pass on inside of this. And now this is useful for let's say when multiple people work on a specific project, then they will know if they made a type error or not, like what does a specific component need. And now it needs a title. And for blogs, I guess, and since this is a constant, we can just specify it inside the constants folder, and we can just have it inside the blog.ts. Yeah, so the constant variables for the blog page, let's say everything about blogs, the constant variables for it. We have export const site title, site title, source to Astro, and then blogs, and then export const site description is equals to page made in Astro or made using Astro that contains blogs. It contains various blogs. There we go. Now if I import that here, did I export that already? Okay, I did. From blog we have site. Okay, we need to give this a unique name, so site title blog, I guess. So let me go back here, so site title blog, site description blog, and just export that again. There we go. And now if we say that we want to get the site title blog, as you can see it's showing up, and for the description we want to get the site description blog. It should be pretty much specified. Now this is very great because you can just edit one file to actually change like the description or the title. Now if you run that, and what went wrong, let me check. I haven't put this inside. So now if I console log, so one more thing to note is that when you console log something inside of the front matter, like in between these three hyphens, it will be console logged inside the terminal, just like you're using Node.js server, because this is a server. Like inside the front matter is considered everything that runs here is considered a server. So if I console log title, there we go, it's console logged right here. And one more thing to note in servers is that there's no browser, there's no window, let's say. That's why you cannot use the browser APIs when you're inside of this. That's one thing, very important thing to note if you want to avoid errors. But anyway, and one thing to do that is pretty much just what we did earlier inside of a bracket, which is JavaScript. And it's JavaScript when we destructure something, or like when we put inside something inside a bracket, and that in itself is a variable already. Now to pass this on, we can just tell that we want to get a title. And there we go. Now this is dynamic because we put it inside the brackets. And now for description, well, it's just some pretty boring surface level SEO. I think it is, right? Yeah. Title, the meta name, description, content is equal to description. Now if I save that, here we go, we changed here, and it changed here as well. Very nice. Okay, so now we have the main layout, and for now I will just have the slot here. There we go. Okay, let's go back to over here. So let's go back to and let's actually start talking about how to, let's say, start let's say getting contents or like data from markdowns. Because let's say you're using Astro mostly because you want something static to be displayed, like an educational website, a blog website, or whatnot, or maybe a bio, like a gallery for family, personal stuff. Anyway, let me just have this and just a simple Astro, I guess. I mean, I can do the same thing here. I guess I should, because it's what I told. So okay, so if you didn't notice, I did two types of exporting. One where we just exported it right away, which is possible, and two where we declared it first. So now if you want to use functions, then you can do stuff like this, like export default, or rather if you want to export a variable in a default manner, you can do stuff like this. Hello, pause. Hello. There we go. Because you're pretty much exporting this already. There we go. And you can't also do this because there's no such thing as hello. You need to declare it first. So there's just one thing to note. So if you're using functions, let's say you need to use normal functions, like for default function. There we go. You declared it hello. Then there we go. As you can see. Okay, we are getting sidetracked, so let's just const site title Astro site description equals to Astro website for Astro course. I don't know if this is considered a crash course, but I am telling you about Astro's features, so yeah. Let me just export that and import that over here. So I don't need to give it a unique name because this is pretty much from the root directory itself. As if you notice, I just put spaces. It's just so I can tell the variables apart much better, I guess. Okay, title is equals to site title. Make it dynamic. Put it, if you want to make something dynamic, either put it inside a parenthesis or do like something like this, backward quotes I think it's called, and then $sign and brackets, a dynamic string, let's say. There we go. Okay, the description equals to site description. There we go. Just save that. Where's the dev? Oh, Really, I close it. There we go. You can see the description is now different as well. Okay. So what kind of UI do I want to build? Let me pause the video for a bit. Simple, let's say, blog display. So I think I should go to blogs then. Oh no, okay. Let's go to over here first. Like, we'll display a featured blog, let's say, but for now it's just some random stuff. Okay, so to actually specify or like have data about blogs, like markdown files, and you can actually manipulate these markdown files in using a content management system, which I can talk about in another video, I guess, because it will make this very long. Anyway, you can name it content. I'm not sure if you can name it anything because there's like which I will show you. Wait, because this will get tangled up if I like stray far too off. Anyway, inside the content you can specify the folders. Okay, you need to specify folders because it's considered as a collection of, let's say, inside of a folder, like, let's say a name of a folder is blogs, then that's a collection of blogs, and another folder that is outside of the blogs is called, let's say, reviews, then that will be called a collection of reviews. And you can see more about the nested stuff. Let's say you want to have different versions of language: English, Spanish, Italian, Filipino, or Tagalog rather. You can see it in the Astro documentation, which explains it very, very well. Okay, let's say have a first markdown of greetings, that empty, and it's pretty much the same, just put front matter, and below this would be the body, like lorem ipsum, which we can just copy paste on the internet. And I am not connected to the internet right now. Wow. Okay, let's go to lorem ipsum. As you can see, I've been copying and pasting it from there, or you can, I think I can just copy it here. There we go. That is much quicker. Okay, just copy it. Oh, oops. Okay, paste it there, and this is considered the body. Now, if you're considered about markdowns, you can check out GitHub and other stuff on the internet. But I guess I can make a video about that, which will take a pretty long time because I'm focusing more on improving my website development skills. Okay, in here we can just define title. Let's say greetings, Astro, description, my first ever markdown file that is rendered by Astro for my blog. And let's say we can give this a publish date. That would be the date today, that's 06/08/2023, and this should be a date, and no, it's not formatting into a date. And then what else? I forgot. Alright, hero image, which would be nothing for now, I guess. You can make this optional or you can make it required, but which I will tackle later about type check safety again when it comes to data, which is markdown files. And we have the author of pretty much me, and that's Aaron. And we can just double this. I guess I want to make it smaller, so there we go. Okay, so the very first method to get this is through using astro.globe, and to do that we can just specify it inside the front matter of .astro file. So this is a const blog collection, I guess. Just say call it blogs. Wait, because it is asynchronous. Astro dot globe blog, as you can see here. There we go. And if you notice, fetch locals files into your static site setup. And local files pretty much means the files inside of this directory, like everything. So blog, I just need to specify that. Say, and it's also good that it actually says whether it matches anything or not. Okay. So now we go outside of the pages folder and we go to content. And inside the content, we want to get the blogs. Go nothing because it is a folder. And now this is a regex expression, which is pretty much just everything, or like what kind of name it is that has the extension, file extension of .md. And there we go. And if we say double star, I think that will still work. Yeah. So pretty much a star or like an asterisk is all around meaning of everything. Its meaning is everything. Mostly. Anyway, now as you can see, we have the type of markdown instance. Now if I console.log blogs, if we check here, okay, wait, I think there's another procedure for this kind of blogs, that blog 0 is right. I see. Okay, so this is indeed an array. Okay. Okay, wait, let me try to get the... I'm not familiar with this method that much, but I will walk you through it. Let's do this together. So the first one, that. Okay, good. That's what I thought. So it means the body is the raw content? No. What's the body? Is it the content? Ah, okay. So I was correct. You just said to call the function. Okay. Because the other method that I know is pretty much easier in this regard, and it has type safety. But anyway, you can do this like as I mentioned earlier, to map throughout the blogs if you want to display a collection. But in there we can just, let's say, get the latest blog. So blogs equals to latest blog, and you can make a filter function, but in this case I'm just going to get the blogs at the very last position, so at -1. And now I can just display that here. We have a div and we have the h1. Okay, this should be an article actually, and we have an h1 latest blog dot front matter dot title. There we go. In the p of this blog dot, so what is this blog about? That description. If we save that, there we go, and then just continue, I guess. Span a div should have a span of this blog that front matter that publish date to date. Okay, that's wrong because it's a string. If you check that out, there we go. There's some sort of a function that you can pass on to you, format it into a date, but for now we'll just make do with this. And span of its blog that from mother dot author. There we go. You say and sp a space by vola. Okay, I think I can just there we go. And then below that will be another key, which pretty much will contain the body or, the raw content. Raw content. There you go. And this is the first ever blog of by me, rather. Okay. Now, what is the other method I mentioned? Well, that is through the use of the inbuilt service. I only call it service, but there's a specific call for it. Well, inbuilt library, I guess, inside of Astro. That's called collections, which I mentioned as earlier. Collections. So it uses the Zod for TypeScript, which is new to me as well, but I've used it in Astro, so I know some functions to call. So let's get right to it. And to actually have the collections, which is very good for type safety, you need a config.ts inside of the content folder. So pretty much just configuration. It should be at the very top, so at the very root of this content folder, and now we can define the blog collection. So in here we take in the function of define collection. Wait, where's the define collection? Z dot, no, should be define collection, right? Astro content. I see. So I think there's a problem with my TypeScript server. Yeah, try this out. Okay, there we go. Goodness, that scared me for a second. There we go. We have a Z. Okay, we have a schema rather. Okay, wait, what's the problem now? Oh no, why is that happening? Okay, let me pause the video first. I don't know what the problem is with TypeScript, but I guess we can just define the collection. Why not? Anyway, it just goes like this. So we specify schema, and it will have a Z dot object. There we go. Now in there we can just specify everything that each file inside of the collection we're specifying will have. And in this case, we're going to have the title. So the title will have a Z, which will be converted to string. So this will check it if it's a string or not. And the description pretty much the same. So it's string. And the publish date is somewhat different. So first we can check if it can be converted to a string, or if it can be converted into a date. I think it's dot date, or am I wrong? Yeah, I think that's it. Okay, is it the date? I think it's okay. After this is, I think, goodness, I forgot. Wait. Okay, my internet is very slow, so I guess we'll just continue. Okay, that transform the next one, then for the new value that we will get, it will transform that into a new date, which is a value. So we'll check if it can be transformed into a new date, pretty much. And since Z is not being imported properly, there are some errors, but this is most probably correct. Anyway, we have a hero image. Next, okay, hero image. So that's a Z string, and then we want this to be optional, so we just pass on the optional right after it. Lastly, author as the string. which is required, so just that. And there we go, that's it. I think you also need to pass on the object. Do you? I think you don't. Yeah, you don't need to pass on the object. And just export that. Export const collections equals to blog. There you go. Oops, it's supposed to be blog collection. There we go. Very nice. It is not defined. Oh. It should be like this, but I think it's z.date. Wait, right? Oh wait. Okay, I think the naming convention should be blogs. Okay, it's my bad. Like it should be the same as the folder that you actually specified. Okay, forgot about that. Alright, let's try to get this now, actually, if it works or not. Let's go to the blogs path. So blog blog path, there we go. Const blogs excuse me, there's a fly buzzing in my ear. Const blogs equals to await get collection. Wait, why is it not? I think it is actually a dependency. I think it is. I made a mistake. So the only way to actually get MD files without like other dependencies beside, well, just Astro, like right here, is actually through what I mentioned. Understandable. Okay, wait, let me view what I actually made before, if I can find it. Alright, so it's not actually a library. It's inside the where is it? It's inside this, and it's not actually working. Okay, then let's skip this part for now. Why not? Alright. It is inside the Astro docs though. It's like inside the guides. Wait, let me see. Guides, the path to guides, and then content collections. It's called content collections. Okay. What else? The styling I have discussed already. The loading. Okay. You know what? I think I'll part that in another video. It's currently close to midnight in our time, and I was just really excited to show you Astro. Like wow, I saw a video of content creators I'm watching in about programming, web development rather, posting Astro, and you know, since I know it generally, like I've been using it, then I also want to, you know, hop on. I'll just discuss it as well. And for content collections, I guess I can discuss it on the next video, but I will give the gist of it, and then we will make a simple blog website, I guess, using Astro. Just a very simple one. Okay, that is all for today, and thank you for watching. Good luck on your development journey.